Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I will be continuing to read Becoming Muhammad Ali. Today I'll be reading Round 9 and Round 10. Round 10 is the final round. Pages 253 to page 305. So let's get started. Round 9. Sometimes I think I knew Cassius better than I knew myself. I could tell that all of the seeds of his greatness were already in him back in Louisville. He was bound for big things. I knew it. A lot of people did. Unless you were around him back then, it's hard to imagine his dedication to boxing, his preparation, his focus. When he was getting ready for the National Golden Gloves competition, Rudy and I trained with him every single day. We ran with him, jumped roped with him, shadow boxed with him. Naturally, he left us in the dust. After we were both worn out, Cassius just kept going. But there were times when Cassius wore even himself out. Like the time he fell asleep in the Nazareth College library. I know what you're thinking. A library is the last place you'd expect to find Cassius. But he wasn't there to read. It was his night job. For 60 cents an hour, he dusted the shelves and waxed the tables and chairs. No doubt he learned how by watching his mother clean houses. But one night he was so exhausted from training that he just put his head down on one of the tables and drifted off. Funny, there's a sign in that library, still today, that says, "Cassius slept here." As the trip to Chicago got closer and closer, Cassius kept his eye on that Golden Gloves championship. Along the way, he'd gotten knocked to the mat a few times, but you could never keep him down. That's a lesson I learned from Cassius, and I hold it close to this very day. My idea was always to be a writer. And believe me, I've had my share of rejections and failures, but I always got back up, just like Cassius taught me, and kept on writing. In June, I sat with the Clay family when Cassius graduated from Central High School. Some of the teachers said Cassius shouldn't get his diploma because he hadn't passed English. He still owed Mrs. Lauderdale a term paper, but the principal, Mr. Wilson, was in Cassius's corner. He said to the teachers, "One day our greatest claim to fame is going to be that we knew Cassius Clay, or taught him." So Mrs. Lauderdale told Cassius he could give an oral presentation instead of writing a paper. It didn't come as much of a shock that Cassius decided to talk about his adventures as an amateur boxer. He made Rudy and me sit on his front porch while he practiced that speech over and over, and got better each time. We all knew Cassius wasn't a great writer, but he was a world-class talker. And of course, he passed. When they called his name at graduation, Cassius got a standing ovation. You couldn't hear yourself with how loud that applause was. That got Mrs. Clay crying. After the ceremony, Cassius hugged her for a solid 5 minutes. He was always a good son, a good brother, a good friend. Years later, after one of his historic fights, a big-time sports reporter asked him what he wanted to be remembered for. This is what he said. "I'd like for them to say he took a few cups of love, he took 1 tablespoon of patience, 1 teaspoon of generosity, 1 pint of kindness. He took 1 quart of laughter, 1 pinch of concern, and then mixed willingness with happiness. He added lots of faith, and he stirred it up well. Then he spread it over a span of a lifetime, and he served it to each and every person he met." I'd make my living as a writer. I wish I'd written that. So what about the Golden Gloves championship fight in Chicago? What do you think happened? Did Cassius get knocked down one more time? I'll never forget that night. I saw it all live from the front row. The way I see it, that's the night everything really began. The night it all got real. This is the part where Cassius is speaking. So let's continue. At Central High School, I got sent to Mr. Wilson's office a lot for talking in Ms. Raymond's class while she read Invisible Man, for keeping raw onions and garlic in my pocket, for trashing the devil's food cake she brought in for her birthday, and asking her why did angel food cake get to be white, for drawing a portrait of her without her wig, for not doing the homework because I was too busy training at Columbia Gym from 4 o'clock till 8, and sparring at Fred Stoner's gym from 8 till midnight, for daydreaming about what combinations I was going to throw at the Golden Gloves. Jab, step to the left, duck, step to the right, for not wanting to be invisible. The principal. Clay, you have a unique set of gifts. I do believe you will one day be a boxing champion, he'd say. But if you're going to make it out of high school, I'm going to need you to get your mind right. Then he'd give me a history lesson, like Granddaddy Herman used to. You know, a lot of people sacrifice for you to be exceptional, Cassius. If you're going to be the greatest, best start acting like it. Then he'd start reading Invisible Man or whatever book we were reading. Picking up where Ms. Raymond left off, and I'd listen. Talking trash. It's hotter than a Texas parking lot in this joint, yelled a burly fella who was also training for the 59 National Golden Gloves. This hot ain't squat, Mr. Big Shot, I hollered back, still hitting the speed bags. These fists I got are meteors, super hot, burn you down like kilowatts, knock you out of this world like an astronaut. Cassius, you a lightweight. You don't want no parts of me, he growled from the ropes. You may have scared that nasty, corky fella, but you don't scare me. I'm a real monster. I'm King Kong, and I'll tear your limbs off. Stick 'em in that running mouth of yours. You right about King Kong, I shot back, 'cause you one big, ugly sucker, and I don't want no parts of that ugly. The place went ape crazy laughing with me, at him. He came out of the ring, charging like a bull, till one of his trainers cut him off, called him champ, then told me, lose lips, sink ships. I don't care if he is a heavyweight, I hollered. Tell that chump, Cassius Clay, don't panic. I'll take him down just like the Titanic. After winning my second Louisville tournament trophy, Joe Martin told me I was ready for Chicago again, for the National Golden Gloves. Said I was moving like a Mustang, finally keeping my head and my fists up, throwing jabs swift and easy, and that I should take a day off, rest my body, give my mind a workout before the trip. So he sent me to the YMCA to watch fight films and study the greats. Cassius, immature boxers imitate. Mature boxers steal, he said, laughing. So that's what I did. Jack Johnson versus Tommy Burns, December 26th, 1908. John Arthur Jack Johnson, a.k.a. the Gavestone Giant, was big and strappy, as hard as cold brew, who knocked out everybody he fought, except Tommy Burns, the heavyweight champion, who refused to fight him until Johnson chased and stalked him around the world for nearly 2 years, buying ringside seats to his fights, just to heckle and hound him in the ring. For 14 rounds, I watched the Goliath Johnson toy with Burns like he was David without a slingshot. In the first couple minutes of each round, Johnson taunted him, laughing at Burns' blows, sometimes even making jokes to the fans sitting ringside, and at the end of each round, he punished Burns with a barrage of powerful punches that over time just crushed him. I never got to see round 15, and neither did 2,000 people standing inside Sydney Stadium in Australia, because Johnson lifted Burns off his feet with an uppercut that demolished him so handily The local police turned off the film cameras, rushed into the ring, stopped the fight. Also, no one got to see John Arthur Jack Johnson, a.k.a. the Gavestone Giant, become the first black heavyweight champion of the world. The Brown Bomber. Granddaddy Herman and Papa Cash used to argue over everything, from whether it was going to rain that day to who was going to eat the last piece of fried chicken. But the one thing they never disagreed on was the best heavyweight boxer in history. Joe Louis Sparrow, a.k.a. the Brown Bomber, from Detroit, wasn't flashy, stayed pretty quiet in and out of the ring, but boxed loud, fought with short, powerful counter blows like Jack Johnson, only he was faster, more precise combinations. He let his fists do the talking, and boy did they holler. Louis had a right cross that could probably level Superman. One punch was all he needed, but he always threw a flurry, battering each of his 51 opponents in knockouts as heavyweight champion until he met the Brockton Bomber. Joe Louis versus Rocky Marciano. October 26, 1951. Rocky was 4 inches shorter, looked up to Joe Louis as a god, but when they got into the ring, it was just two mortals, one young, one aging, going at it. The match was brutal. I only watched it once, 'cause who really wants to see their hero get older, get slower, get knocked off their pedestal by the new guy? Rocky was a swarmer, a slugger, a brawler who liked to crouch and strike from down under, which he did against Louis for 8 long rounds, and it wasn't pretty. The next morning, a sports reporter wrote in the New York Herald Tribune, Rocky hit Joe a left hook and knocked him down. Then Rocky hit him another hook and knocked him out. A third and final blow to the neck followed that knocked him out of the ring and out of the fight business. That was Joe Louis's last fight and probably the biggest of Rocky Marciano's record-breaking 49-0 career as a professional boxer. Sweet as sugar. While I wait for the front desk clerk at the YMCA to load the Sugar Ray Robinson highlight film, Lucky reads out loud from a biography we checked out of the library. Walker Smith Jr. was 15 when he changed his name, when he borrowed his older friend Ray Robinson's birth certificate so he could box in a tournament for boys 18 or older. When the film starts, we watch in awe as Sugar Ray dances around the ring, destroying fighter after fighter with a sweet, deadly knockout left hook that wipes the mat with his opponents 173 times, almost half of them before the round even ends. I'm gonna slay like Sugar Ray, I say, jumping up, mimicking his fancy footwork and sharp jabs. Bon voyage. Mama throws me a party fit for a king, but won't let me, Rudy, Lucky, Riney, Small Bubba, and Big Head Paul eat till my aunts and uncles and cousins show up, and Cash gets back from Aunt Coretta's with the desserts. Finally, he blows the horn for me to come out and help him bring in the cakes. And when I do, I run smack dab into Teeny Clark. Conversation with Teeny. Hey, Teeny. Hey, Gigi. You looking for Riney? I'm looking for you. I'm kind of in the middle of preparing for the Chicago Golden Gloves tournament. I heard. That's why I came. Just wanted to say good luck, Cassius Clay. Okay, thank you. Why are you acting so weird? I'm not acting weird. You still have that rabbit foot I gave you? Yep, but I don't need no luck. The fighter ain't been born to beat me. Well, then you better not lose. How's your new school? Every student gets a book, and each class has its own pair of scissors. Sounds decent. Yeah, it is, but the white boys are daft. I don't know what that means. It means they're stupid, and sometimes mean. integration is not nice. Is not so nice. I thought the Supreme Court said integration was going to solve all the problems. They lied. Going to school with white boys liable to cause more problem. True. You having a party? It's not really a party. You gonna invite me in, Gigi? Sure smells good in there. You can come in if you want. Rainy's inside. Why, thank you, Gigi. Don't mind if I do. Golden Gloves party menu. 3 trays of meatloaf, 2 bowls of cornbread dressing, 2 huge buckets of fried chicken, a huge pot of collard greens, a ham hock, a macaroni casserole, dozens of hot buttered rolls, 2 large strawberry sheet cakes, boatloads of strawberry ice cream, and a great big old pitcher of extra sweet tea. Mama Bird's prayer. We gather together to send this boy out into the world and ask that you hold his dreams tight. Let them rocket to the stars and beyond. Life is like a sky full of possibility, and Gigi is our great golden eagle. In this room full of angels, remember who you are, Cassius Clay. Hold fast. Together we can dream a new world. United we stand, divided we fall. God bless us, Cash interrupts. Now let's eat, y'all! After dinner, Cash is drinking, laughing, and hugging on Bird. Lucky's reading Lord of the Flies, not saying a word. Riney and Teeny are sitting on the couch eating cake, and Rudy ate so much he's got a bellyache. All my cousins congratulate me. Aunts and uncles celebrate me. Bird says, show me your appreciation, so I put on a magical demonstration. Pick a card and remember it. Then place it back on the deck, I say to Riney, winking at Teeny, while shuffling the cards and recounting the story about that time Cobb and Jake were walking to school in the blizzard, and they slid down the hill on Virginia Avenue, got trapped beneath the snow, and how I was running by and heard them screaming, then dug 'em out with my big paratrooper boot. When I finish, I spread the whole deck face up on the table, but one card is face down. Turn it over, I say, and he does. How'd you do that? Riney asks, on my front porch waiting for Teeny to say goodbye to everybody in the family. It's just science, y'all, Big Head Paul says. You know Gigi got a memory like a hawk, Rudy chimes in. All y'all wrong. It's misdirection. I get you to commit to believing in me before I even show you the card trick. Your expectations and my reality all mixed up together. I knew your card before you knew it. That ain't even possible, Gigi. Plus you shuffled them all out of order, Lucky says. Or I shuffled them in order and created chaos in your mind. Huh? Rudy asks, scratching his head. What did the story about digging Cobb out of the snow have to do with it, though? Ronnie asks. I told you, it's misdirection. I get you thinking what I want you to think, then I can get you to do what I want you to do. Y'all talking about boxing again? Teeny asks, coming out of the front door. Yep, I think. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I sure hope you get some cans off at that Golden Gloves, Gigi, Lucky says, giving me 5 before he leaves. Yeah, win it for the West End for Louisville, Big Head Paul says, waving goodbye. Good luck at the tournament, Gigi, Riney says, shaking his head as he and Teeny leave hand in hand. He doesn't need luck, right, Cassius? Teeny hollers back. Sure don't, I yell. Fight is won way before you get into the ring. Amen, amen, amen. Granddaddy Herman, because of you, I know who I am, I know whose I am, and I know where I'm going. I hope you can see that your words changed me. And I remembered you told me I am the greatest, not because I am better than anybody. I am the greatest because nobody is greater than me. I'm going to win the Golden Gloves, even though I'm the underdog. I've been training my body and my mind, and tomorrow's the real beginning for me. I guess I just wanted to say thank you, and that even though I haven't been back here since the funeral, I think about you all the time, and I love you, Granddaddy Herman. The day of. I slip on my white Everlast shorts, lace up my black boxing boots, get taped up, my hands placed firmly inside the gloves, then walk out into the loud and massive Chicago Stadium, holding my history in one hand and my cool in the other. Cassius Clay versus Tony Madigan, March 25th, 1959. Tony was an Aussie with wild, stringy hair, sitting on top of a blockhead that housed a chin made of brick, which didn't even flinch at the jabs I landed. But by the middle of the third round, I could tell he was getting tired of chasing me around the ring and dodging his punches, so I moved quicker, punched harder, and even though he got me into the corner, pummeled me with body shots, I was too slick for tricks, had a swift uppercut with his name on it that made him wince, and I talked trash the whole time. Told him if he even dreamed he was going to beat me, he'd better wake up and apologize. Tony Madigan didn't stand a chance because I was fighting for my name, for my life, for Papa Cash and Mama Bird, for my granddaddy and his granddaddy, for Ms. Alberta, for Riney and Teeny, for Big Head Paul, for Rudy, even for Corky Butler, for Louisville, for America, for my chance, for my children and their children, for a chance at something better, at something way greater. This is the final round. Only Lucky is speaking here. Knowing Cassius Clay made me feel like I was a little part of history. We all felt that way. Of course, Cassius felt like he was a much bigger part of history. And he was so right. After losing in Chicago in 1958 to Kent Green, Cassius went on to win not just one, but 2 Golden Gloves championships, then the gold medal at the 1960 Olympics. After that, he turned pro, which meant he started to make a lot more than $4 a fight. His first professional bout was right in our hometown of Louisville. I was there, along with Rudy and a bunch of other guys we grew up with. Cassius won that fight, just like he won the next 19 fights. For the next 3 years, he never lost in the ring, not once. In 1964, when he was just 22, Cassius fought the heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston, the Big Bear. People said Liston was unbeatable, but Cassius had a plan, and he made sure everybody knew it before he stepped into the ring. "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee," he said. And that's exactly what he did. Sonny Liston was older and more experienced, but he'd never experienced anything like Cassius Clay. When the 7th round bell rang, Liston just sat there. He was done, and Cassius was king, the heavyweight champion of the world, just like he'd predicted, just like we'd all believed. With all his success, Cassius never stopped thinking about unfairness and injustice, the way black people were looked down on in Louisville and everywhere he traveled. The day after the Liston fight, Cassius announced that he had joined the Nation of Islam, a movement that was founded to give black people a new sense of pride. A week later, he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He said that he now thought of Cassius Clay as his slave name. From that day on, I never called him Cassius again. He still called me Lucky, though. In 1965, Ali beat Sonny Liston again. First round knockout. 6 months later, he beat Floyd Patterson. Ali was on top of the world at the top of his game. Nothing could stop him, except a single sheet of paper. In early 1967, Ali received a draft notice that ordered him to go into the army. That meant he would have to put on a uniform, carry a gun, and probably go to war. But Ali did not believe in war. It was one thing to fight another man in the boxing ring, but the idea of killing people in a far-off country was not in Ali's nature. He didn't consider those people his enemies. He had no quarrel with them, he said. So when the day came for Ali to step forward and enlist, he just refused. To this day, some people say it was a brave thing to do, and some say it was a wrong thing to do. But knowing Ali, I realized it was the only thing to do. Even though we both understood that it might be the end of his boxing career, it almost was. Officials took away Ali's heavyweight boxing title and his boxing license. He didn't box again for over 3 years, a time when he could have defeated more opponents and made millions of dollars. But his beliefs were what mattered most to him. He took those years to focus on black pride and racial justice, and he began to realize that there were more important things in life than boxing. In 1970, after a long legal battle, Ali won his license back, which meant he could finally box again. His first opponent was Jerry Quarry, one of the toughest pros in the world. We all worried that Ali might be rusty after not boxing for so long, and he was, a little. But even a rusty Ali was better than most fighters in their prime, and definitely better than Jerry Quarry. Ali won the fight in under 3 rounds. 5 months later, Ali took on Smokin' Joe Frazier and lost. It was his first defeat as a pro. But Ali wasn't ready to give up. Not by a long shot. In fact, he wanted a rematch with Frazier, which he got, which he won, and regained the heavyweight championship title. In 1974, Ali fought the reigning champ George Foreman, who had never lost in 43 pro fights. The bout was held in Africa, so they called it the Rumble in the Jungle. For this fight, Ali came up with a new strategy he called rope-a-dope. He cushioned his body against the elastic ropes around the ring so Foreman's punches wouldn't land as hard. But by that time, I was writing for a big newspaper, so I was right there ringside for the fight. I'll never forget it. Ali won by a knockout in the 8th round. In 1975, Ali fought Joe Frazier for a 3rd time, this time in the Philippines. It was called the Thrilla in Manila. The fight went on for 14 rounds, and at the end, Ali was the winner. 1 billion people around the world watched that fight on TV. 1 billion! Pretty cool. I knew Ali couldn't go on winning forever, but the end came sooner than I thought it would. He lost his next 2 fights in 1980 and 1981. They turned out to be the last fights of his career. Outside the ring, I started to notice a little trembling in his hands, and sometimes he couldn't form sentences clearly. We both knew something was wrong. Doctors told Ali he had Parkinson's disease, which affects the muscles and body movement, and it was only going to get worse. That news would have stopped most men, but not Ali. He never boxed again, but he kept on fighting. He fought to raise money for famine victims all over the world. He fought to get 15 American hostages released from Iraq. He became friends with Michael J. Fox, a popular young actor who had Parkinson's disease too. Together, they raised millions of dollars for medical research. Ali worked in the United Nations and became a messenger for peace. In 2005, President Bush awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Ali told me that was one of his proudest days. Muhammad Ali died in Arizona in 2016. I wasn't there. And in a way, I'm glad, because I wouldn't want to remember him that way, still and quiet. I want to remember him as the funniest kid in the West End of Louisville, the kid who never stopped running and never stopped talking. Muhammad Ali was a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. and one of the most famous and respected men who ever lived. He was also a true and loyal friend. That's what I'll remember most.